Hi, my name's Jake. I've met quite a few of you before and seen you in some of these events, but I still will introduce myself. Today's session is on motivating children to learn English. I've been doing a lot of webinars recently, critical thinking, learner autonomy, playing games, etc. And a lot of people have been asking, can you do something on, hi James, good to see you there. A lot of people ask, can you do something on motivation? Because it's an important one. So firstly, this is me. You can see me here. This is in our office in Tainan. So I wanted to show you that there, what it looks like there. I'm going to do a really, really quick one just to see if you're all awake. Hi, Thomas, just to get you awake. I'm going to show you a slide for 7 seconds, just 7 seconds, with some things about myself, and I just want you to type in after that 7 seconds what you can remember. Are you ready? Just to wake you all up, get you motivated to keep going. 7 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you type anything that you can remember? Now, go, Katie. Yeah, go, Matteo. It's a race. What do we say? I think most people are, I think we're a lot of people in China. We'll find out soon. Go, Katie. Maliki, who's going to be first? I'm excited. This is, oh, the question is, maybe the screen didn't come up. What can you remember from here? What can you remember in the 7 seconds? There might be a delay. I'm going to go back. Yes, Matteo, look at you. Whoa, New Zealand. Shanghai, yes. What's UQ? Very good. WH, awesome. All right. Cambodia, yes, Maliki, good job. Thailand, awesome. Amy, what else? I think Matteo's going to be the winner here. All right, Japan, thank you. Effie and Aussie, yes. Okay, so let's have a look. Yes, a lot of country names. So this is my attempt at a motivating way to introduce myself. Really quickly though, I studied at UQ in Queensland, University of Queensland. I used to be a Trinity College London course director for the DIP TESOL, if anyone's done that. I'm sure if anyone comes from EF, etc., you might have done that. I come from Australia, yes. I've been working here in China for the last 15 years as a teacher, trainer, and manager. I have been lucky enough to train in China, Thailand, Cambodia, Japan, Korea, and Myanmar. I think the reason I tell you that is because it's really nice to see that across all these countries, very different styles of teaching, yet very similar problems, just manifested in different ways. My biggest passions in learning and teaching are learner autonomy and empowering children to learn on their own, or empowering them to learn at home with their families, etc. And I'm a big pronunciation fanatic. I also want to introduce, I have a daughter. She's 5 years old. The reason I show you that is because she's bilingual, and so all the theories that you learn in language learning, and then you have a child and you realize, there's a lot of other things to learn about language learning as well. And also she's going to be relevant to this session today. Oh, and also I have lived in Shanghai, Wuhan, and Xi'an. Let's continue. Right now, I am the head of academic experience for Studycat. Studycat produce fun and effective language learning programs and applications for kids. Let's continue. So who are you? Very quickly, can you just type the country you're from? Let's find out where everyone's from. Katie, let me guess. Katie's from the UK. No, South Africa. I think we had met before. Effie, I think you're from, Philippines. Good to meet you. Maliki, I think, is from, I can't remember, Canada? James. Oh, we got James today. That's great. Northern Ireland. I didn't know that. I should have known with a name like Maliki. Matteo, English. Awesome. Yeah, okay. Awesome. And last one is, where is everyone today? So in the morning sessions, we usually have a lot of people in China. In the afternoon, we get a lot more countries, like when they're all awake, like Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. I think most of you are in China today. Vietnam. Katie, are you in, where are you? Am I guessing you're in Ho Chi Minh or Saigon? Or you're in Hanoi? That's really cool. Nice to see some people coming from Vietnam. Oh, we'll have to talk after. I'll reach out to you. I think you're the first person that's attended from Vietnam, so that adds another country to our list. Okay, thanks, guys. Nice to see a group of people from around Asia working together on new ideas. So here's the question. Why did you join this webinar today? You don't have to answer. Don't answer. But we'll come back to this question is, were you joining the webinar for extrinsic reasons or intrinsic motivation? Oh, hi, Ryan. Good to see you there. You don't have to answer now, Maliki, but we'll get to this point. Good, Maliki. I'm hoping it's extrinsic. So what will we do today? We're going to do 4 things. I'm going to tell a short story, 2 short stories. We're going to show you some of the research, basically pulling from psychology and 2 of the most famous studies in young learner motivation. And then we'll establish a bit more about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation in your classrooms, and then just leave with some tips. And I want to highlight some ideas by showing you a language learning app that if you stick around, you can have too. You can trial in your classroom. Let's have a look. So here's my short stories. I always tell short stories, guys, but I think this will be relevant for you. I started teaching in Xi'an in China in a big language school in 2004. And when we were teaching, we had a lot of issues back then, you know, lots of new teachers, lots of changing teachers. So we had a problem with school behavior. And the school introduced a good behavior reward system board. So all the kids would have their names up, and if they were good, they would get a sticker, and if they were bad, they wouldn't get a sticker, right? So, you know, as a new teacher, I thought this was awesome. I was like, great, now I've got a solution. It's if my kids are good, they get a sticker, and if they don't get a sticker. Of course, you can imagine what happened. After a few weeks, the good kids were happy. They were getting, the kids that were usually well-behaved, I should say. There's no good or bad children. They're all, they were happy. They were getting lots of stickers, and they were doing really well. Excepting that after a few weeks, they kind of wanted more, because their attitude was, well, I'm only getting a sticker on a board. I couldn't really relate to that. So it became the focus of the class for them was, can I get the sticker at the end of class? And of course, the kids that were less well-behaved, like my little friend here, she just didn't care, right? She didn't care if she got a sticker or didn't get a sticker. So she just ended up getting no stickers, and then it became a real problem. For all the kids like that, their parents were not happy, we had a problem, and then it became, well, it must be the teacher's fault. Why isn't she getting a sticker? And then, of course, later we were told, well, just give them a sticker anyway. So what happened was, from this whole reward system, that we just didn't end up infecting any motivation. We didn't end up impacting any of the behavior. All that happened was the good kids were motivated, the less well-behaved kids were demotivated, and the parents just saw some stickers and then they were happy, but the teachers were all still unhappy because the kids were just staying the same. So that was my first story. Just keep that in your minds. That's an example of extrinsic motivation. In my second story, and this is quite personal story, is, hi, Jared, good to see you there. In this story, I have a daughter, and as she's getting older, what we hear more than anything is, Daddy, look at me, Daddy, look what I can do. And what it starts to make you realize is that there is so much inherent intrinsic motivation in children before they get to school, before they get told by teachers what to do. Why aren't we harnessing that more, right? And we know that seems so obvious, but it's just, it made me really rethink the way I go into classrooms now, that everything my daughter does, yes, she's getting the extrinsic motivation of Daddy saying good job, but really she's just so proud to show you, like the first time she walks or the first time she rides a bike, or I did this picture. It's a very motivating thing for her just because it's new. So that's a kind of two little stories as the basis of what we're talking about today. They were my two stories. I always start with stories. But let's look at some research, and there's some really fascinating research for you all. The first one, oh, sorry, let's just define motivation quickly. Motivation is the desire to act in service of a goal, right? There has to be an outcome for the motivation to exist. So there needs to be a goal. The reason I'm saying this is I think that we often forget to tell our students why they are learning. So we'll come back to that later, but this idea that the motivation needs a goal, it can't just be because I'm in class, I should be motivated. What is great is that there's so much research on this, and most research, oh, Yolanda, good to see you. Nice to have you back. Hope you're doing well today. Where are you? Chongqing? No, Chengdu. I can't remember. What research shows that people can influence their own levels of motivation. So let's look at some cool studies. This study, has anyone seen this one before? Called the Soma cube experiment? No? Okay, I'll be happy if anyone's heard of this. If they can name the study, you get 100 points. Okay, so this study is called the Soma cube experiment, and it was done by a guy named Deci in 1971. So in this study, students they had to solve this problem, college students, right? They had to try and solve this puzzle. Half the students were told that they would be paid for doing the puzzle. And half were told that they would not, well, they weren't told that they would be paid. So there was, you're either being paid or not being paid. So that they went into the room and they started to try and do the puzzle. After a short break, the college students were left alone and they could do whatever they wanted. So they could choose to keep playing the puzzle, not play the puzzle, or do something else, right? This is back in 1971, so they probably didn't have smartphones to keep them occupied. So they could choose to do the puzzle or not do the puzzle after. So let's have a look at what happened. It's really quite interesting. At the beginning of the experiment, we saw that the paid group would spend more time doing the puzzle. And it's really, I mean, it seems obvious, right? They had this extrinsic motivation. I'm going to get paid money. Yeah, Jared, Caitlin, you should hook up. I'll introduce you to Jared in a few days, Caitlin. So in this one, the baseline at the beginning of the experiment, the paid group spend more time, just a bit more time, trying to solve the puzzle. In the middle of the experiment, which was coming to the end of when they were allowed to spend time solving the puzzle, we saw a little shoot up of the paid group because they thought, oh, it's coming to an end. I have to now do this because I want to get my money, right? Maybe. But here's the interesting part. At the end of the experiment, when they were told, just left on their own, to their own devices, you can see here, the unpaid group ended up spending more time on trying to solve the problem. Now, this shows one thing very simply, that you can motivate people extrinsically, but there is definitely a motivation to keep trying to solve the problem with no extrinsic motivator, just intrinsically. That's what it shows, number one. Number two is it shows a drop-off of the paid group. Once they thought they weren't getting paid, they were less likely to go on to that. So that's a bit of a theme underlying here. Once you stopped being paid, you were less likely to go back and go on to the trying to solve the problem. So that's the first one. That's called the puzzle experiment. It was the Soma cubes. Definitely worth having a look at in the future if you want to look it up. And I think this sort of comes back to that idea of, you know, if you've ever tried to solve a puzzle, if you tried to build a puzzle, no one is sitting there telling you you're going to get a reward at the end. You're simply motivated to sit there and finish that puzzle. Finding each little piece and how it fits in is truly motivating to you just by doing the puzzle, and also working with someone together to do it. And the last point I want to make on this one is it's like the Rubik's Cube. I'm sure you've all tried a Rubik's Cube and you've gotten frustrated. I mean, maybe I'm old and this is something from when I was young, but Rubik's Cubes were frustrating, but they were so motivating to keep trying. So why would you want to do it? No one's giving you a reward. Now, there is a bit of glam at the end. If you solve it, you want to tell a friend. But a lot of people solve these on their own. By the way, did anyone ever solve one? Amy, if you did it, I'm impressed. I have never been able to solve it. Oh, Maliki, I didn't expect anything less. Yeah, never always go above. Yeah, and then use the cheat sheet, right? The point is that a lot of people keep trying to do it, but they're not. Yeah. Yes, Amy, that's exactly right. I used to take off all the stickers and go, look, I finished. But really, you keep trying, not because someone's going to come and give you a big reward. Here's another one. This is a really fascinating experiment with young learners. This one was called it's actually called the felt tip pen experiment, the felt tip pen. I say marker because I'm Australian. It's Lepper, Green, and Nisbet. I think Nisbet did some research with language learners as well. But this was the basis of the experiment was kids will be put in a room with markers and paper. And all they want to see is how much time will the kids spend on using the markers. There were 3 conditions. The 3 conditions are, number 1, some of the kids expected a reward. In this condition, the children were told that they would get a certificate, like a little gold certificate, a little ribbon, if they took part in the experiment. So if you take part, you're going to get a ribbon. In the next one, they would get a surprise reward. In this condition, you receive the same reward, but you weren't told about it until after the activity was finished. And in the last one, you were told there was no reward. You would just go in and have to play with the markers and see what happened, right? So there were 3 conditions. You were going to get a reward. You would get a reward, but you wouldn't be told about it till after. And number 3 was there was no reward. The next thing that happened, and you can read if you can't hear properly, is that each child was invited into a separate room to draw for 6 minutes, and then afterwards they were given the reward or not, depending on those conditions. Then the children were watched through one-way mirrors to see how much they would continue drawing. So it's always what happens after the rewards are taken away. The graph on the next slide shows you what happened, and I'm sure you can guess because it's the theme of this webinar, is that after the experiment, the kids who were expecting a reward in the experiment, they spent less time with the markers. The kids who had no reward would spend more time and a surprise reward. So all it shows is that once you take away that reward, the experiment proved that an individual's interest in an activity will likely decrease by inducing them to engage in the activity as an explicit means to some extrinsic goal. What does that mean in layman's terms? Extrinsic motivators work in the short term, but when they're taken away, you might decrease that motivation. So these are just some interesting bits of research which are worth looking up again. I've put links in down the bottom, and I will send this out to you all so you don't have to go searching for it. But it's definitely worth having a look at these and starting to understand what the psychological research says. But this doesn't mean that rewards should never be used with children. Instead, that they should be used more strategically. And I think this is the key point today, is that if you're trying to teach children something important that you want them to take with them for years and years, rewards are probably a bad idea. What is something they want to do for years and years? Learn languages. Languages are not a fast fix. And I think a lot of kids don't think of that. They think if it's a class I'm going to and I've got to impress the teacher, rather than really understanding that I'm learning a language. Oh, sorry, just 2 quick ones on punishment before we move on to the next one. Punishment is a strong extrinsic motivator. There's a really nice bit of research that just came out 2 years ago that shows that in a story about a child stealing from the cookie jar, you might have seen this research, that kids whose okay, I'll read it out to you. In the recent study where children heard a story about a character who stole a cookie and later lied about it, children who said that the character should tell the truth were the ones whose parents didn't punish them. So actually, the parents who don't punish their children for this were going to their kids leading to a more were leading to a more positive outcome. I don't want to get into this one, but it just shows that there's a big influence on how the parents act at home as well. And the last one is my favorite story. Is I used to use this as a motivation in my first year of teaching. I would say to my children, if you're naughty, you have to sit in the corner, or if you're very naughty, you have to leave the classroom. And one day I had a child that I thought was not obeying me, so I was going to use punishment as an extrinsic motivator. And I said to the child, you have to get out of the classroom. And what did the child say to me? No, I'm not getting out. And then I had this huge problem. So I thought that the punishment was a strong enough motivator for him to stop, and all it did was empower him to not get out of the classroom. And then I had a huge problem battling with him about should I get out, that I've tried to kick him out of the classroom. So there was a huge issue with the using punishment as an extrinsic motivator. It's the same with the one, you know, sometimes you say, well, you have to go and sit in the corner. Well, some kids like that, so then they're actually motivated to be bad. Okay, so that was some research. I really suggest going back and having a look at those 2 bits of research about how the kids, once they took away that extrinsic motivation, their motivation drops quite dramatically. So this brings us back to really leads us up to this extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation, which brings me back to the story again. Why did you join this webinar today? Same question I asked you at the beginning. You don't need to answer yet, or you can answer if you like. I'm fascinated to see some people's answers. Let's have a look. Oh, we've got lots of people today. Nice. I think, yes, probably because, yeah, that's the most, I think James has got the best reason. Jared, I mean, sorry. Oh, I didn't solve, okay, sorry, I'm getting to the get out problem. James, I just stopped using that. I went to my academic manager and they said, of course, what you've done is by doing that, you've created a power relationship. I had a huge problem with that child in the end, and their parents had to come in, and I had to really rethink the whole way I did my, you know, in that first year of teaching where you don't know what you're doing really very well. So, of course, I stopped doing that immediately and then started talking to the kid about what they wanted to get out of the classroom and really changed it as a whole group as well. Anyway, so let's keep going on. Why did you join the webinar today? Yeah, to get more insight. Oh, hi, Dawn. I think that today you might have joined the webinar for extrinsic motivation. You might get a promotion or a pay rise or a bonus or a prize. But hopefully that the reason you enjoyed the webinar today was for, sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm seeing this webinar. Yes. Hopefully you joined today for intrinsic reasons, for enjoyment, to learn something, out of curiosity, for passion. Oh, you've lost the sound. Can everyone hear me? Because Maliki says he's lost the sound. Okay, cool. Maliki, might be the China problem. So yeah, I just want to get back to that. Just to think about yourselves is the reason you joined today was for enjoyment, purpose, growth. Maybe there's some good reasons, right? Or you want to learn more, to do more with your children. But I think we forget about that with our students, is that that's the reason we want them to come to class, not just to get extrinsic motivators. Extrinsic motivation is just so to make sure you get a really strong definition here, is behavior driven by external rewards such as money, fame, grades, and praise. But the dangers of this are things, as we've been discussing, is you can begin to lose your intrinsic motivation because I don't know why I'm coming to class now. I'm just doing it to get my reward. I have seen a lot of schools that have sticker programs. I think my daughter as well, she goes to dancing. She's so happy to get her stamps at the end of class, and then she forgets to start practicing her dancing, which is the reason she's going to the class. So her outcomes become a little bit worse, right? Because she's so focused on the stamps and not the actual outcome of the dancing. It can end up reducing good behavior because in the end, they're only focusing on the motivator, the extrinsic motivation, rather than doing the actual act. It can become addictive, right? So kids just want more and more and more stickers. I want more, and I have to keep one-upping, right? The first day I needed 1 sticker. Now I need 2 stickers. Now I need 3 stickers. Now I need 4 stickers. It's very short term, but it might not be long term. It can lead to cheating and shortcuts because, you know, we know, like, for example, grades in schools, we know kids cheat to get higher grades. That's not a good reason to do the work that you're doing. We know that it leads to cheating and shortcuts. And it can crush creativity because I'm not focused on what I'm actually doing in the task. I'm focusing on finishing the task. So speed becomes the challenge to the creativity. So why are so many schools still doing this? And just from my experience of meeting a lot of administrators, is people, you know, lots of new teachers, they need a quick solution to be able to solve, to help their kids be motivated. It shows parents, like the thing we showed on the board before here, parents see this and think, well, my kid's doing well because they got 5 stickers. But it doesn't mean that they're learning anything. It's just a very nice, quick solution to helping, and especially in schools where people have paid money, right? They want to see an outcome very quickly. And this is an extrinsic motivators, or these reward systems, show that in a very simple and fast way. It doesn't necessarily show that any learning is happening. So the last point on this is, and I'm not going to hark on about this anymore, is that the problem is how it works. What this type of reward system does is it teaches an individual to expect a reward in exchange for behavior. The danger is that once you stop rewarding the behavior, there's a chance it might go away, right? I put the links in here for a lot of these references for you. You can check out the articles later. So, intrinsic motivation, the reason we're all here today, it's engaging in a behavior because it's personally rewarding and not for an external reward. And if we can get to that, with all of our students, we'll be having happier classes, right? So now let's have a quick quiz, right? I'm going to put up some words, and it's very, very simple. As I say each word, all you have to type is extrinsic or intrinsic, right? So I'm going to show you some words on the screen. As I say them, you type intrinsic or extrinsic, or just type I or E, right? I or E. So let's have a look. First one. Stickers, I or E? Yeah, easy, cool. Personal interest. Yeah, cool. Curiosity. Nice. Oh, look. Oh, curiosity could be Y-E, Amy. I. Tokens. I see a lot of classes with this where you can earn money and then you can go buy things with it. Yeah, lots of E. Prizes. No worries, Amy. Fun. Yeah. Punishment. Pride. Relevance. Is it relevant to you, right? These are so easy for you guys. You guys are all quite high level, right? And praise. Now, praise is an interesting one. I get, sometimes praise, it's very external and it's very extrinsic, but there's this kind of warming up, EI, I would say too, Caitlin and Jared. So yeah, guys, I pulled these from a really nice article written by a teacher in Taiwan. She works in an international school there and teaches a grade 2 class and a bunch of other kids in that international school. She wrote a really nice article, so check it out on the blog on motivators. But she puts them into these categories, and we'll have another article coming up after this webinar. Named Rosie Burns. Check her out. Great writer. Really interesting. So yeah, you got them all right. So, but sometimes it's hard to define. Sometimes there's this kind of weird gap in between the two, right? So in here, I love Venn diagrams. Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Caitlin has shared that article. I suggest checking it out after this webinar. Sometimes that we have intrinsic motivators and extrinsic motivators that kind of overlap, and it's really lovely actually because you get this double whammy of motivation. So I'm going to show you a few games from an app. But games have this kind of like extrinsically, I want to do well, I want to get there. But extrinsically, I get some points or money or I get something at the end, right? Parents are another one. I personally want to impress my parents, but I'm extrinsically motivated when they tell me, good job, right? Or that's really wonderful, like my daughter. And even at my age, I still want to impress my parents. But there's an intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Exercise is a great one. Exercise is this kind of weird world where you're intrinsically motivated to be a better, more healthy, fit person, but extrinsically you want to look good for the public and people are talking about you. And problem solving as well, right? It's very extrinsic because you want to do something really well, but at the end there might be an outcome which brings you an extrinsic motivation. I want to continue on. So let's look at some more intrinsic motivators. And guys, I think I'm just going to talk about them, but I'll send you out this after and go back. These slides now from about 54 on, these are the ones that really show the sort of my top tips of what's the best way to intrinsically motivate your students. So number one, lead by example. Very simple. If you're enthusiastic, your class will be enthusiastic. If you're a motivated, happier kind of teacher, it doesn't mean jumping around the classroom like a performing monkey or something. It means just being positive about what you're going to be talking about. If you come in tired, demotivated, your students are going to be demotivated. I hope I'm being enthusiastic today. Number two, I'm actually doing a webinar next. The next webinar I'm doing focuses on this, and it's a huge motivator. Yeah, right. So, Jared, I'm getting to gamification at the end, and it's exactly in the middle. Good point, Jared Simpson. So with varied content, the idea is once you're inputting language, and I see this so often in classes where the teacher just does one thing, right? They have a flashcard, and it's just sheep, 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 and then they play some flashcard games. Now, it's motivating, but they do the same thing every day, or the language is only seen in one way. So varied content is key, always varying up. Is it coming in a song, and then I see it in a game, and then I see it in a dialogue, then I get to do some artwork, then I get a quiz. So lots of varied content. Seems obvious, but it's just, it seems obvious, but it's just something that we really need to think about. Am I varying the content that I'm giving to my children enough? Next webinar is really focused on this. Letting students set their own goals, right? I mean, if you are in China and you have a local teacher, speak to them in Chinese, right? Let them talk about what they're going to learn. I didn't come to class today just to play the games. Ask them, what do you want to be able to do at the end of this unit? I want to be able to ask people for what my animals are, what's your favorite animal or something, right? Ask them what they want to achieve. Yeah, different context as well, Jared. So set learning goals, right? Let your students know why they're learning. I don't think we spend enough time telling kids that there's a reason why you're doing this today. You're not just coming to class to focus on what the teacher tells you, right? Why are they learning English? Because they might be able to travel to another country and speak to other people. Later in life, if they're young learners, they're going to use this to maybe get a job or do well at university or something. Talk to them about these things. And once a child knows, I mean, for example, my daughter goes to Taekwondo, but now she's so motivated because she knows that she's going to be able to eventually get a black belt, which is extrinsic, but she knows, well, I'll be able to protect myself from people if anyone does anything. That's the reason she wants to keep going, and she wants to show me as well. But she feels like she's getting better every day. I don't think we spend enough time focusing on why our kids need to learn English, and we talk to them about it. 5-year-olds can understand these abstract concepts of why. Obviously, we know this one, personalize every single chance you get. If you're talking about animals, what's your favorite animal? Which animals do you have at home? If you're talking about food, always personalize. Personalization is intrinsic motivation. I want to tell the teacher because it's about me, right? It's the same thing as I said at the beginning. Daddy, daddy, look at me, because I want to tell you about myself. People love talking about themselves as well. We know that. The creativity, why is it motivating, is the more activities you have where the child gets some chance to show their creativity, like I've shown you in previous webinars, where they can do some drawing thing or they get to choose the outcome of how they're going to do the activity, involving that creativity, it's super motivating because I get to make that choice, right? I get to do something that's about me. A lot of schools do this. I mean, just putting the work up. Now, it seems extrinsic, but what it's really doing is it's making you proud. There's my work on the wall with all the other kids' work, and then I can show people about it. I once worked in a school that actually banned us from putting any of the kids on the school, any of the children's work on the walls. So we used to have these beautiful classrooms with all the kids' work. Kids would be so happy to put it up at the end of class to say, look at what I did. That's my work on the wall with all the other kids. The school eventually stopped us doing that because it didn't fit the image of the school. And the kids were so sad that they had to take down all their work, and so were the teachers. And obviously peer work, collaboration. The more you get kids to work with each other, the more they're going to want to show their other friends how well they're doing, because that's motivating. I've talked about this in the learner autonomy webinar, but allowing for choice. Choice gives you control over your learning. Control is so motivating. Once you think, I made that decision, I'm going to finish it. So there's this really nice one just called a choice menu. And you say to the kids, okay, at the end of class, you got 5 minutes. Today we talked about animals. I want you to either draw what you learned, write down something you learned, act it out with a friend. You can just think about it if you want. That's fine. Say it or sing it. Now, you get them to choose what they want to do, and then they're going to be much more motivated to want to do it. Or at the end of each class, you can say, okay, you've got 2 weeks. This week you can draw it. Next week we're going to, you start crossing them off, right? So the kids get to choose, but by choosing, they're showing you all their learning outcomes as well. So it's a really lovely one. Allowing that choice at the end is really motivating. One of the next ones is, sorry, this is the last one, right? So make learning fun. I mean, this seems so obvious, but we know that there is a correlation between fun and motivation, and then motivation and learning. So let's have a look at what we can do to make things fun. And this is where I introduce our app, which you can all trial. So how do these games motivate you? Now, let me ask you, who has played these dual games? Don't be shy. Have you ever played one of these games on your phone? Even once? Yeah, Candy Crush, right? Have you played it? And if you say you haven't, I don't believe you, right? I just don't believe you. Because, now why? Why do you play this game? What do you get out of playing this game on your phone? Yeah, it's addictive. Why is it addictive, Amy? What's motivate? Yeah, dopamine hits. Now, Amy, you're really hitting on something, right? The dopamine hit is the motivation. We know it's the same thing that my daughter gets. Daddy, look at me. I want to show you something. It's the same thing. I'm getting that dopamine hit of getting something that's wanting to motivate me. But why? And gaming companies are very good at this. And you can argue whether it's good or bad. That's for another discussion. What they do know is, though, you get to that point where you get that dopamine hit, right? Now, you can say this is good or bad. The point of this is there are lots of negatives with this, right? It becomes very addictive, and then we're just sitting on the phone. But the issue about this one is the extrinsic motivation is that you get these scores, but the intrinsic motivation is just the excitement of doing this. Now, what gaming companies have given us, though, is showing us that there is this intrinsic motivation to be on the game. And whether or not they do it in the right or wrong way, there is something we can take from this in gamification, right? Something like Minecraft, for example, we know that we can use these for educational reasons. So that's just a little bit of background on it. But what can we do to take from gamification to actually be positive, to actually give some positive input to kids and get them to be learning something? And even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes a day. Now, this sounds like I'm just leading up to a marketing ploy here. But, I mean, I work for Studycat, and we make an app called Fun English for Schools, which I'm very happy for you to guys all trial if you write to me after. I just want to talk about why it's motivating, though. So here, I just took some screenshots because the screen share doesn't work very well. But say in this game, really simple game, it's just a colors game. All they have to do is pop the bubbles. So the bubbles come up, and then pop with your finger, pop, pop, pop. As they come up, you'll say yellow, and you have to find yellow, right? So there's a little bit of cognitive process there, and you're getting some input, right? You're getting the word yellow, and then I'm touching it, so then I'm showing that I'm getting the word yellow. And it's fun, right? So that's number one. So it's intrinsic. But it's also extrinsic because I get this score up here, right? Is challenging, well, that's kind of intrinsic because I want to be able to get better. It keeps getting harder and harder. And I got it right. That's intrinsic as well. So just by playing this one simple game, we're using the benefits of gameplay and just giving some input to the language and keeping kids motivated to do that. Number two, really simple game. All I have to do is shoot the fish, right? But as I'm doing that, I'm hearing the number. So I've got to think, okay, it's 2 fish, 3 fish. So I'm getting plurals. I'm getting some language in there, right? I shoot the fish. They have to do something down the bottom here. But what they're getting out of that is this problem solving. I've got to wait. I've got to think. And that's kind of motivating for me because then I get it and I feel great. And I get this extrinsic motivation of a score. Let me show you another one. This one I really love because it's so, and I use this one in my classroom all the time. It's so simple, right? On the big screen, you just want to introduce the language and it's just in black and white. All that happens is you press the button and it says, it's an eraser, and they have to click eraser, right? So they're getting some input, they're getting the language, they're getting the context. But the fun part is just pressing it and seeing that they got it right. And kids love doing this, and it's this really intrinsic sort of motivation to get, I've got that right, and I'm getting to play this game. Here you can see actually one of the guys our creative director, and he just does this at home with the kids. It's such a simple, motivating way in class or at home to input language. I just want to show you a song, and I hope you can all hear it, and why songs are such awesome motivators. It's really small, I'm sorry guys. I don't know why, but let's have a watch. I'll go back to the beginning.
My book is black, my scissors are blue, my paper is white, and my glue is too. A book, paper, scissors, pencil, case, and glue. Who needs some to take to school?
Let me change back. So guys, what you're seeing here is that kids can get language inputted in various ways, right? They get a song, they get a game to play here, they have to do something here. So lots of different variation is motivating. But music is one of the key motivators in class, right? You don't get a reward for listening to the song. There's no extrinsic motivation. If you've all been to a rock concert, I don't know if anyone here has been to, maybe you went to a rave in your younger days, or you went to a big concert. That's true intrinsic motivating, right? You get this huge dopamine here, you get this huge motivation, and kids love it. So in this simple game, all they have to do is touch the words as they come up. But what they're motivated by is the feeling of the song, the rhythm, and then they get to remember it because it sticks in their head, like an earworm sort of type of thing. It also helps with pronunciation. And here's the last one. I think this one's really interesting because quizzes. So in this quiz, all they have to do is it says, they just say a letter A, and they have to just click on it, and then another 4 come up. Is this extrinsic or intrinsic? Oh, and then they know if they get it right. So they get a cross or a tick, right? So is it extrinsic or intrinsic? Now, it's an interesting one because the quiz is I got it right, and I get to see that I got it right, and I get a score for my quiz. That's very extrinsic. But the intrinsic part is just, I'm just happy that I got to know that I got it right, especially if it's a quiz as opposed to a test. So as you can see here, when we talk about game design and gamification, this is the idea, is that the extrinsic motivation is the learning motivation, right? I want to get that right. I want to be able to solve the problem. I want to find that issue there. And the topic, the context, and the personalized, I'm interested in this topic, right? That's very intrinsically motivation and the challenge. But the rewards, the scores and the alerts and all those pop-ups and exciting things, they're also extrinsic motivators. And what game design does, it puts it in the middle. Now, I think there's going to be a fascinating debate over the next 10 years about introducing more game-based learning into language learning, and especially on screens, and because there's so much to be taken from that. We want to take the positive sides of gamification and sort of get rid of the negative side. So we want to make it safe. We want to make sure it's short. We want to make sure it's, you know, screen time maybe is only 10 or 15 minutes a day. We want to make sure that it's combined with other things. But what we are seeing is that there's a really, really exciting time that there's going to be more motivation from these types of things. If anyone is interested in those apps, please write to me as usual. I can set you up with a trial. I think I've already set up Jared there in Chongqing. All of this is available on the big screen in your classroom, and you can try this out. Also, it feeds data back to you, and you can find out how well they're doing, etc., etc. But if anyone wants to try it out as a supplementary tool, I'm doing some research to see how well this works for a dissertation that I'm doing. So if anyone's interested in that, reach out to me and we can set that up for you. It'll be nice to do a collaborative project together. Amy, if you are interested, please tell me. Yeah, for sure. I've already started setting up a few people. Maliki, I don't know where you work now, but I'm happy to set you up as well. I tell you what we do is, you just need to write to me directly and I will set you up with a download. You can either download it on your PC or your tablet or your phone. What's exciting is downloading it in the classroom, and we set it up as a trial experience program for you. What we want in return, though, is learning data. So we get a lot of data back from how well the kids are going. So I'm going to email out this to you later, and I will set you, if you're very interested, write back to me, okay? So a few final thoughts for you, just to wrap up, is try researching with your own students. If your school has an extrinsic motivation program, try not to use it. Try just going into classroom and try one lesson with no rewards, no competitions, no smiley faces, no stickers. Just try that. Think about this. If your kids are getting bored, it might be because of what they're learning, right? Don't let your kids get demotivated. It's not about always trying to have fun, but it's giving them interest in what they're learning about. And if you're doing your own research, and research might be as simple as this: today I'm not going to do smiley faces. That's it. And if they're motivated still, or today I'm going to try 5 activities instead of 3, or I'm going to try a creative activity. And if they seem motivated, keep doing those activities. Pull from psychology. We used to have this idea of siloing. I think it's called siloing, where lots of people were siloed into their different research. Psychology now, education, gamification, you know, all these different things are coming together now. So we're really getting the best out of everything. We're living at a time where we have more access to research than we've ever had before. So use that and see what you can do in your classroom. Use extrinsic for short-term goals. If you want to get something done quickly, yeah, sometimes you need a reward, right? Or they might need a punishment, hopefully a reward just to get that thing done quickly. But for long-term goals like learning a language, we're going to focus. I think you should focus on extrinsic motivation, getting them to know why they're in the class. Coming to class and wanting to learn is as the motivator, as opposed to just getting stickers. Because what we don't want, and we see this all the time, people have spent 10 years studying English and don't know how to speak English because there was constant extrinsic motivators. One of the cases I always talk about is the IELTS. Now, IELTS, you can have a debate about, but so many people finish an IELTS because they want to get a score of 8 so they can go to university. They're so focused on the score of 8 that the extrinsic motivation is that. And then they finish their IELTS study, come back, and still don't speak English. And the reason is because they were too focused on the 8 as opposed to actually learning the language to get them over there. There's a lot of issues about that, but that's for another discussion. A few final points, and my favorite one, is there anywhere we can watch? Yes, all these webinars are available later on studycat.com. I'll put the link in and I'll send this through to you when I upload them tonight, okay? Guys, I just want to finish off by saying that parents are the key to motivation, really. In any of you teaching young learners, we need to talk to our parents. What are you doing at home to help with the motivation? Are you forcing your kids to sit down and treating English like it's this subject about getting high marks? Then I'm not going to be always motivated. If parents are involved, if parents are showing that they are just happy with the kids doing the trying hard and doing well with language, your children are going to be more motivated. And always make learning fun. That's what I always say. So check out our blogs. on studycat.com, which Caitlin shared with you just before. Lots of awesome blogs. Share them with all your friends. Send them out on social media. We have some awesome writers at the moment. There's some really interesting topics. We talk about things to do with education technology. We talk about things about growing, growth mindset and what you can do as a parent, what you can do as a teacher. Lots of awesome articles, about one a week. So check them out. They're very high quality. Our studycat.com has lots of learning resources. Sign up for the club. You get learning resources, and our newsletter starts next week. The next webinar is on helping parents and teachers understand language learning. What I'm going to be talking about is the most up-to-date research on language learning. There's been a lot that we've found out in the last 5 years that was really getting away from what we used to think about second language acquisition, and a lot about young learner acquisition. And remember, check out the app. Write to me and you will get this. But what I will do is I will send out an email after this with the content, and then you just have to reply and say, I want a trial, and we'll set you up. And all we want in return is data and a chance to talk to you about what you thought of it. Because the more we know about it, the better we can get. Because really our motivation here is to help kids have better opportunities to learn languages in a more fun and motivating way. And that's it, my friends. Awesome to see you all today. Super motivated group. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Peace to Effie, James, Lyubov, Solieva, Maliki, Thomas, Yolanda, good to see you there. Dondo. I'll send this presentation too. Guys, it might be a little bit later tonight when you get the email, because I have one more session this afternoon. Have a good day. Oh, hi, Lexi. Lexi Liao. Where are you today, Lexi? Where are you based? Oh, you lost the connection, Yolanda. It happens every week. Guys, by the way, there's all the references for today's the research, etc., are in this. And thank you. Bye bye. Peace. Oh, Lexi's in Taiwan. Awesome. Cool. Bye bye. Which slide, Yolanda? You mean this slide? This slide? Oh, Yolanda, I will definitely send this email to you. I know I didn't in the reading one. That was poorly formed. But yeah, in this one for sure. You can take a screenshot now, but I'll send you it with the links, okay? And each one of these articles has links to further links about the research, etc. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Have a great day.